Yes, we now proceed. Can we now proceed? Are you done already? Can we now move to the last question? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
The Honorable Gutierrez has his final question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as I was establishing earlier, with the co-prod, which was mentioned, actually,
Yes.
I was moving towards that, properly elucidated by the good Chairman Tambunting. Questionable po yung kanilang 2 years na wala palang kita, if it's still continuing. So it begs the question, like, why do we have this program? What is the strategic goal that is in mind? Is it to perpetuate this kind of content? Yung tanong po namin, Mr. Chair, initially we'd think that this kind of program should be for profit, and as their franchise is for profit. But Mr. Chair, so with that, I'd like to ask if the COMSEC could briefly flash the resource indicated by Kong Dan Fernandez earlier, yung expenses nila. So Mr. Chair, based on the expenses of SMNI, very clear, walang kita yon. And they said that with the co-prod, they are sponsoring the expenses of that program, and talent fee po yung binibigay. Ms. Badoy, bakit po blanco yung talent fee natin dito for 2022, which was at the time already? So, yeah. And aside from this, so Mr. Chair, 2 questions po, no? Kung may talent fees po talaga si Ms. Badoy and si Mr. Celis, bakit wala po dito sa financial statements nila? And now I would like to ask also, papasok ba ito sa legal and professional fees? 100,000 a month po yun, di ba? So 800,000 for the whole year of 2022.
No, but it's 100,000 each.
100,000 each pa. And then where are we going to see now the 1 million per month ni our good consultant? I have questions about the veracity of the documents they've been submitting. We have questions about the financial statements that they've been submitting. We have questions about their franchise. Mr. Chair, we see now this pattern of violations, Section 4, Section 10, 11, 12. Parang wala na nang gagawang tama. So, Mr. Chair, I actually still have questions on the GIS. Fortunately for us, the CorpSec, Ms. Nepomuceno is here, but in the spirit of brevity, I will now concede. I will just question in the second round. So I will now clear the floor. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Ramon Gutierrez. Now, for the proponent of the resolution, the Honorable Mig Zocrates.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before we vote to approve the
Yes.
resolution,
She has the final, this is the final one
to
before the
approve
vote.
the committee report
This
based
is,
on the resolution as amended
Congresswoman
that we
Nogales.
adopted last hearing, no? Which is to simply naman urge the NPC to suspend the operations of SOARA. So based on its violations of their franchise, may I just be allowed to ask some clarificatory questions?
Yes, please.
So this is to SMNI.
Please take note, Attorney Tolentino. There are clarificatory questions to be asked by the Honorable Mig Zocrates.
So in our previous hearings, we already established that SOARA soap is actually a monopoly. Kita naman po natin sa pie chart na nilabas po of the Kingdom of Jesus. And as well, with any of the lawyers, it's part of your due diligence to know the membership of the major stockholder of your corporation, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
May I know how many members the Kingdom of Jesus has today?
The kingdom. No. I cannot answer that, Mr. Chair. I am the lawyer of SMNI, not the executive pastor.
You
of
just
the
mentioned
Kingdom of
earlier
Jesus
it's part of your due diligence, di ba? Sinabi mo may due diligence as every lawyer to
Christ.
know
I try
the
to answer,
membership.
Mr. Chair, to the best of my knowledge, Mr. Chair. But to be honest, Mr. Chair, I have no personal knowledge to the number of members. But I know it's about more than millions, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, I did my due diligence. So, meron naman po kayong website. Pakita po na lang natin yung screenshot ng website.
Ang sabi ni attorney is lawyer for SMNI and not for the kingdom. Napakasimple lang naman, congressman. Congresswoman.
May we have the screenshot?
So, it says in the screenshot of the website where Pastor Tibulo is there, no? You have 7 million worldwide, no? And congregations in Asia, North America, South and Central America, Europe, Africa, and Australia. So, ang laki, 7 million followers worldwide, members worldwide. And sobrang laki niyan. On what occasions, Mr. Chair, do these members get together?
Actually, Mr. Chair, I am not a member of the church, so I have no personal knowledge.
Actually, Congresswoman, it's really irrelevant. Your line of questioning is irrelevant to the issue. Eh. Ang kausap mo dyan is the lawyer for SMNI News Channel, not for the kingdom.
Just a lawyer of SMNI, Mr. Chair. I am not the lawyer of the Kingdom of
Yes,
Jesus Christ.
exactly.
But I admit, Mr. Chair, that Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy is my friend, Mr. Chair.
Okay, since dinidiin na hindi niya sinasagot ko. Okay.
Now, hindi niya sinasagot. Ano naman yan? Pakana na yan, Congresswoman. Ang linaw-linaw. Specific lang yung client niya, SMNI.
So since dinidiin naman po yung corporation sold, gusto niya tayong turuan on. In
Oh, yun.
2006, when you converted from a non-stock corporation to corporation
Sinong nagtuturo sa'yo, madam? Madam.
sold, how many members would you have? How many members did you have back then?
As a corporation soul, Mr. Chairman, from the word soul, there's only one person involved, Mr. Chair, holding the properties of the corporation as a trustee per section 108 of the
Mr. Chair, I'm
Corporation
asking
Code.
about the members ng
No, we have to understand. This is one person representing
a religious sector.
a religious
Yes,
sector.
Mr. Chair.
Ilan yun?
That's why, Mr. Chair, I have no personal knowledge with respect to the numbers, but I can give estimate, Mr. Chair,
Which
more
is,
than millions, Mr. Chair.
Okay, more than
7
millions.
million, more or less, but it includes also the sympathizers, Mr. Chair, worldwide, Mr. Chair.
Okay, that's in 2006, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So let's just say, what's 2/3 of 7 million, Mr. Chair?
7 million, 2/3.
Yes,
That's around 4 million.
around 4 million.
Yes.
And when you amended your AOI from a non-stock to a corporation sold, were you able to convene these 4 million members from all around the world?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to manifest that there was no amendment from stock to corporation sold, Mr. Chair. Okay. For record, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Can we show na lang po the GIS that you in your certificate of filing of amendment of articles of incorporation didn't you change from your non-stock to a corporation sole? Napaulit-ulit yung binibigyan ng 'di ba, nilalabas corporation sole. Ngayon, are you recanting? What is the good lawyer recanting now that there's no corporation sole, there's no amendment? Parang nililito po tayo, Mr. Chair, so I just can we
Attorney, I think
please
that's a
clarify?
misdeclaration. Your statement earlier with this document.
So based on my personal knowledge, Mr. Chair,
We're not
No,
asking. This is a document that you
These are
submitted.
documents already. I mean, alam po ninyo, kung sabi yung, tingnan nyo na yung dokumento para maging tugma.
Anyway, so kita naman po natin may dokumento na they submitted, no? So again, 2/3 of the membership, you have 7 million and an estimate is 4 million. And now you're saying you don't know how they convened or whatsoever. Walang pictures of this milestone to have 4 million. It's such a big, diba, event all over the world.
may I know the question, Mr. Chair?
The
Do you
question
have
is,
any proof
do you have
that
any proof that you've
you know the
convened?
membership?
That is an estimate, Mr. Chair.
No.
I attended-
No, we're talking of any proof that they convened.
Yes. Because as stated here in your certificate of filing of amended articles of incorporation, which you submitted to the SEC and you submitted to Congress as part of your repertorial requirements, on November 8th, you got the vote of at least 2/3 of the members of the corporation, right?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
And this is to amend to make
I am the
it a corporation. So
Attorney.
I only answered that, Mr. Chair, that I'm not the lawyer of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ. I am the lawyer of SMNI, Mr. Chair. I have no personal knowledge about the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, Mr. Chair.
But I have a question. Don't you think you should have some working knowledge about this, since this you're representing SMNI, of which the Kingdom of Jesus Christ the sole corporation is part of or majority of. I
Due
mean, how
diligence
can you
lang po
detach
yun.
yourself from that argument, di ba? Na dapat hindi ko kayo pwede magtago ron eh. Kasi with due diligence yan. As a lawyer, you come here, you're supposed to come here prepared and have the answers. And you can't waste the time of all the resource persons and including the members of Congress.
Sorry for that, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that's why, if you keep on saying that you are not, I mean, you should, boss, third hearing na po natin to. You should be prepared to answer these questions already. Tapos there's another lawyer that comes in just to deliver a letter. So, I mean, I don't understand. You have to be able to answer these questions. The question of the Honorable Nograles is, do you have any photo to show that the executive of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the sole corporation, convened? Because as per the amended articles, you did convene. Attorney Rolex, baka kayo may sagot.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
we have discussed this when questions would touch on the executive pastor of the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, the name above every name, Inc.
Yes.
We only have the certificate of filing of amended articles for 2023 and the previous one, 20.
Mr. Chair, since they're
20, 22.
Yes. Yes, you still have the floor. Go ahead.
Your Honor,
So are you able to answer the question?
we are
Attorney Rolex?
engaged only by SMNI, Your Honor. And later on, during the
But-
second hearing, we agreed to be lawyers for Ms. Batoy and Mr. Celis, but not for the executive pastor, Your Honor. This is a
Yes,
different
but you know,
entity.
these are already amendments to the incorporation, the corporation that controls the SMNI. Now, hindi po dapat alam niyo ang sagot ito.
Your Honor,
How
the
can,
late,
how can you say that you don't have working knowledge and come here and we talk about this? How can there be an intelligent discussion with the resource persons?
Mr. Chair,
And how
they-
can you defend SMNI
Your Honor,
if you do
the,
not know a basic question as far as this particular sole corporation?
with due respect, Your Honor, we are called here to answer for one, the alleged 1.8 billion travel expenditures of the speaker. Number two, the red tagging allegedly made in a program in SMNI.
Well,
Mr.
very
Chair,
good, Attorney
Mr.
Rolex.
Chair.
But
I do not have any knowledge on what happened in 2006 when the vote was taken. With due respect, Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, please.
Attorney, ganito na po yan. You also
Yes, Your
called here to defend SMNI. And in SMNI, there is a sole corporation of distinction. That's why we're just asking you, you cannot escape from the fact that this has to be part of your job to be able to justify their very existence. You cannot say that hindi po ako abogado niyan. Then, pwede nyo sabihin, lahat yan, di ako abogado except SMNI. Ang problema, marami hong tao at maraming korporasyon nagko-control ho doon sa SMNI. So, kailangan, hindi po dapat, I mean, if there was a reversal, kayo po nakaupo rito at ako po dyan, at ako po yung abogado, hindi ba dapat alam ko rin yan?
Definitely, the view there is better than the view here, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. So this we're clear, Attorney Rolex.
Mr.
But you know,
I once sat over there for 9 years. Your
I
Honor.
know, and I used to watch you. And I knew you will ask questions like this too. Okay? At di yung pinaparusot yung mga resource persons pag hindi tama yung sagot. The Honorable Nograles.
Mr. Chair, klaro ko lang
Thank
po,
you, Your Honor.
no, sa nabit po kasi ni Attorney Suplico na they're being called here for, do these, yung mga red tagging.
Oo.
Sa agenda A. Sa agenda B tayo, we're talking about the resolution here.
Yes.
To clarify lang po. And which you are still also the lawyers for SMNI on this resolution, which is simply to urge NTC to suspend because of violations of your franchise. Correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. So, iklaro ko na, let's not mislead right now what's happening. Hindi naman po ako yung nag-file nun. Pinag-uusapan natin ang resolution na final ko to urge NTC to suspend if we find na violations. Okay. And in any case, since they did not do their due diligence as lawyers, there is section 114 of their Vice Corporation Code. Nandito naman din yung SEC na I can ask them questions if you cannot answer the questions of a major stockholder.
SEC.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, so, are you addressing
on.
this now?
Mr. Chair.
Wait, Attorney Tolentino.
I am...
Pwede bang tapusin po natin si Congressman Nograles? Di ho kayo pwede pumasok.
Sanay po kasi siyang ganyan, Mr.
because you know, Kanina nagsasalta, puro hindi nyo alam. Ngayon naman na bibigyan niya, ibabanda nyo sa iba, tatanungin nyo at papasok ulit kayo. Pwede bang tapusin muna ni Congressman Nograles? Congresswoman Nograles, yung line of questioning po
Sorry
yan.
for that, Mr.
Bago
Chair.
ko kayo pagbigyan, ha? So, yes,
Ganyan-ganyan din yung kay Ka Eric noon eh. Nagsasalita si Ka Eric, pasok ng pasok ng mga congressman. And now, at least nalaman nyo gaano kabastos yung may nagsasalita, may papasok na iba without seeking permission from the chair.
Honorable Nograles, para ho maging orderly yung proceeding at saka maintindihan ho natin yung issues.
Ayun, alam na nila yung orderly at para maintindihan ng issues. Natuto na sila. Learn from the past. Okay, that's good kasi natuto kayo sa experience nyo na magulo, no? Na pagdinig. At least ngayon, meron na kayong order na nalalaman.
Honorable Nograles.
So, Section 114 of the Revised Corporation Code, which embodies the rules for corporation soul, since gusto naman po nila tayong turuan tungkol sa corporation soul, explicitly requires that at least 2/3 of the membership will give its written consent or has voted to incorporate at a duly convened meeting of the body. SEC, tama po ba, Mr. Chair?
Yes. SEC, please answer the question.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
And even jurisprudence, Iglesia Evangelista versus Bishop Lazaro, GR number 184088, July 6, dated July 6, 2010, states, even an amendment as well requires 2/3 of its membership, the vote or the written consent of its membership that convenes for that sole purpose.
SEC.
Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Dito po, makikita natin sa pag-file pa lang nila ng Certificate of Amendment of Articles, that's why I highlighted it. It says 2/3 of the members of the corporation, which is not membership and violative of Section 114. Is this correct, Mr. Chair, to SEC?
That appears to be the case, Mr. Chair.
Yes. But of course, alam naman po natin, mandatory, may mga submissions ng documents and you have to, SEC has to, if nagbigay sila ng documents, kailangan naman pong, i-approve,
Yes.
right? So, can we show na lang the next slide?
Next slide, please.
So, they have a trustee certificate which is notarized, no? Sworn. There's an oath there. Sabi naman po na contradictory to the first page of the submission, this is attached to the 2006 amendment. Meron naman silang 2/3 of the members in a special meeting called for that purpose and jointly held on November 8, 2006. So I've been looking through the website. Wala mo naman po kasing pictures, walang anything. So if SMNI na lang po can furnish us a copy of a photo or proof of the notice. Kasi 2006, hindi pa pwede yung mga Zoom pag board meetings. So dapat, di ba, nakita yan magkasama-sama sila on November 8 specifically, especially for that they called the meeting. I'm really hoping SMNI would be able to submit such documents or proof. Because if not, hindi po ba to SEC, this is grounds for cancellation because
SEC.
of fraud?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Any document that appears to be fraudulent or false or contains false statement submitted in support of filing of articles of incorporation or any amendment that constitutes fraud in the procurement and may be cancelled, Mr. Chair.
So mukhang kahit yung SEC, binibigyan nila ng iba-ibang requirements, the documents na contradictory to each other. The
Yes.
first statement on the first page of the GIS, and mas malala, if they cannot prove this, Mr. Chair, this is a criminal offense for perjury because this is under oath. The same as the document submitted to us na iba po ang sinabit sa atin sa Kongreso, na nalaman po natin today, and sa SEC, di po, fraud po yun. So, to clarify lang po then with SEC, para malaman po natin within the purview of SEC anong definition ng fraud. Meron po kasi akong nabasang administrative case number 03-15-173 on Nature's Garden Park versus Enforcement and Investor Protection Department, where you defined fraud within the purview of SEC to be fraud as actual or constructive. And in the same case, you mentioned that any material statement made by an incorporator in its articles of incorporation or amendment and turns out to be falsehood would be considered fraudulent. And again, yung fraudulent na to, regardless of the incorporator's intent or knowledge of such falsehood, correct, Mr. Chair?
Yes,
That's correct,
SEC.
Mr. Chair. Correct, Mr. Chair.
Essentially, pag mag-good faith na naman na argument, no, that they didn't know, they didn't comply, it's still going to fall as fraud within the definition of SEC. Correct.
SEC.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
And
you.
fraud in submission nga, even if they say good faith, is a ground to cancel such amendment or certificate of registration. Correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Ano nangyayari?
Okay.
Proceed.
May I ask, and with this cancellation, no, may I ask lang, NTC naman po, Mr. Chair.
Please proceed.
For NTC, it is within the power of the NTC to issue certificates of public convenience for operation of communications of radio and television broadcasting system, correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And corollary to this power and to your regulatory powers, does NTC also have the power to suspend such certificate, license, or permits?
Proceed.
If the violations are directly in violation of the CPC that the NTC issued, then the NTC may consider, Your Honor, but we take into account also the other jurisprudences in light of this. Thank you.
Essentially, Mr. Chair, we just want to clarify from NTC. If we see violations, now that we're seeing several violations within especially the franchise of Suarez, and even if we dig deeper and see more violations, does NTC have the power to suspend while we're looking into violations at magkakaputukan po na lalabas po ang violations? Mr. Chair.
Your Honor, we will be evaluating very carefully the resolutions and whatever that this committee may come up with too, and we take into account also the existing mandate that we have and the corresponding jurisprudence.
Yes,
Mr.
simply
Chair.
that's why our resolution is to urge NTC, no? So, to enlighten lang everyone, I suppose, let's run through na lang po the violations. First, di ba, yung ground naman po ng pag-urge natin sa NTC dahil may violations sila sa franchise. Klaro naman po, kanina pa, that we have, next slide, please. Under franchise, which is RA 11422. Section 4 was violated, diba? Not to use the station or facilities for dissemination or of deliberately false information or willful misrepresentation to the detriment of the public interest. Okay, next slide. Last meeting, of course, we established this with this whole shift of the controlling interest, no? And again, this would hit another provision in their franchise, which is on the next slide, Section 10, which we have established that there's no prior approval of the transfer of the controlling interest. And then that's the first sentence of Section 10. The next slide, please. There's also a violation on the requirement to report within 60 days from the transfer of the controlling interest. So, punta tayo sa mukhang ngayon, dahil sa nakita natin, no, that the latest GIS statement that they submitted to us is different. The one 2021 po ba yun? 2021 GIS submitted to us on the repertorial requirement is different from the one that they submitted to SEC. Mukhang ngayon may violation na rin po sa Section 12. Which, if I may direct this committee lang to Section 12, on the repertorial requirements, on the third paragraph, actually, the second paragraph, the annual report shall include an update on the rollout, development, operation, or expansion of business, audited financial statements, latest general information sheet officially submitted to SEC. So bakit po iba ang sinubmit sa atin at iba ang official sinubmit po nila sa SEC? Certification of the NTC on the status of its permits and operations, and an update on the dispersal of ownership undertaking if applicable. The next paragraph, the repertorial compliance certificate issued by Congress shall be required before an application for permit, certificate, or any equivalent thereof is accepted by the NTC. So ngayon, mukhang pumasok na meron na rin pong violation ng Section 12. Hindi pa po tayo tapos. Like we showed earlier, last hearing, next slide please, lalabas ko po ulit na lang yung pie chart. That essentially, 53.46% is executive pastor, Phoebus Holdings is 46.22%, Phoebus Holdings naman, about 97% is owned by executive pastor na, di ba, noong 2022 naman, na-establish natin na si pastor po ang talagang may control naman. So equivalently, may 98.37% na share talaga si executive pastor. So, at makikita po natin na ang cooperative na wala rin po doon sa kanilang franchise na ginawa nila to comply after 29 years of existence ay 0.19 lang po. Ang layo-layo ng 30% requirement nila to offer the public sa dispersal of ownership clause nila. And they only did this 2 years ago, after 29 years of existence, Mr. Chair. Sinabi po naman, Mr. Chair, nila that they are complying and may good faith na naman. Pero questionable na gusto pala nila comply. 2 years ago lang nila kinumply after 29 years of existence. Medyo, di ba, Mr. Chair, nakakapagduda. Diba? But even with that, we'll show the next slide. So, dahil hindi umabot sa 30%, meron violation on Section 11. Okay. More than even the franchise, nakikita natin tuloy-tuloy yung mga violations nila. Even with the Constitution, next slide please. Because we've established that there's monopoly on Article 12. Section 19, the state shall regulate or prohibit monopolies when public interest so requires. No combinations in restraint of trade or unfair competition shall be allowed. Next slide. Hindi lang isa na violation on the highest law of the land, which is the Constitution, pati rin po ang Section 16, Section 11, Article 16, that Congress shall regulate or prohibit monopolies in commercial mass media. Mukhang tinatamaan na rin po na kailangan natin din tingnan to. Kaya nga, di ba, nakikita natin may mga violations. Not even with the Constitution. Let's also go to the KBP broadcast code, which they only withdrew their membership on December 4, 2023. So they cannot now wash their hands and say that all other violations that they did prior to that does not apply to them. So next slide. Article 1 of the KBP Broadcast Code on Section 3, Fairness and Objectivity. News report shall be fair, factual, and objective. Okay, next slide. Meron din on Section 4 on news sources. The only news that can be attributed to a source shall be aired. News must be clearly identified. You know, there are violations here na naklaro naman, di ba, na Mr. Chair, correct, na umamin naman po na may mga violations at hindi nag-comply at hindi na-verify. Tama po, Mr. Chair. Not just Section 4, the next slide. Meron pa pong personal attacks na Bawal po na nalabas po naman nila Honorable Manuel and Honorable Castro kanina po. Next slide. Meron din Article 5 naman kung sinasabi nila nagkakamali. When a mistake has been broadcast, it must be acknowledged and rectified as soon as possible. At ngayon lang sila nagsasabi.
You mentioned about Castro and Raul Manuel, and these are people from the CPP and PNDF pinakikinggan ninyo. Ito yung gusto nila mangyari. They wanted to shut down a news channel who are, kumbaga, inilalabas yung kanilang, they are unmasking these members of the Communist Party of the Philippines. Now you're mentioning Manuel and Castro as part of this of those complaining against SMNI. It's not a personal attack, no? Hindi personal attack to. It's not even red tagging because they themselves belongs to the red. Mismo si Joma Season nagsabi na they are part of the red. CPP and PNDF are one. Iisa lang yan.
Nang sorry dahil nag-iimbestiga po tayo. Parang bakit ganun po, 'di ba? Meron din Article 13 ng KBP Broadcast Code. So persons who regularly go on air shall be required to obtain accreditation. Okay. Some of the SMNI hosts were not KBP accredited. Correct, Mr. Chair? Ako nga po, hindi nga po ako KBP accredited. Sinasabi na dati po akong co-host, kaya nga po umalis. Kasi mukhang may mga violations tayong nakita. So, I can attest to that veracity.
I am not pro Kibuloy, neither pro their kingdom. I am neither pro SMNI, but I don't want that itong si Caselis, who is unmasking this group, no? Talagang miyembro ng kaliwang grupo na ang nais at patalsikin ang ating gobyerno. Dito tayo magkakaproblema. Bubusalan nyo ang tinig ng mga tao nagsisiwalat ng katotohanan, baka dito po tayo magkakaproblema. No? I hope na hindi mangyari ito, no? Dahil pag nagkataon ay baka ang kukontrol ng Kongreso ay ito ng mga makakaliwang grupo hanggang sa mapatalsik nila ang ating Pangulo, pangalawang Pangulo, at lahat ng nasa liderato. At mauwi tayo sa isang komunistang bansa dahil sa kapabayaan o pagsuporta ninyo sa mga taong ito na nilalabanan itong SMNI o itong sila Eric Celis. Lahat ng miyembro ng National Task Force LCAP na kung saan ay sinusuportahan naman ng AFP and PNP.
Na some hosts really are not accredited. Okay. Then we have another article sa KBP Broadcast Code, Article 33, the Universal Ethical Standards. Ang dami po kaya sa KBP Broadcast Code. Hindi lang po yun. Mr. Chair, meron din po sa sarili nating house rules. Para maklaro lang kung bakit, di ba, na-cite for contempt. Pakita po natin ang next slide. For sure naman, when the Honorable Pimentel and the Honorable Abante moved to cite the two individuals for contempt, syempre mabigat yun sa loob. Pero trabaho din po natin na kailangan to maintain the integrity of this Honorable Committee of Congress ay pag may lumalabag sa batas at may lumalabag sa House rules natin, it is our duty to move for those para hindi tayo niloloko. Yun naman po din gusto natin, hindi tayo maloko po, di ba? And so, to emphasize that there are violations naman po talaga which we cited, which the Honorable Congressman cited, which is Section 11C on refusal to answer any relevant inquiry, which today we also heard nga, yun naman.
Miss Congresswoman, Eric Celis was cited for contempt not because of these documents. Eric Celis was cited in contempt because he refused to divulge his informant, no, regarding doon sa 1.8 billion na allegedly travel funds ng House Speaker. or Speaker of the House. Walang kinalaman ito doon sa pagkakasite in contempt ni Eric Celis. And for Miss Badoy, she was cited in contempt, no, mga kababayan, hindi rin dito sa document na ito. Miss Badoy was cited in contempt because she refused to answer regarding doon sa commercial or sponsor ng kanyang programa. So, yun po yun. Malinaw po yun doon, Madam Congressman.
Di ba? Yung dahilan kung bakit na-cite in contempt po. And also, acting in a disrespectful manner towards any member of the committee or any misbehavior in the presence of
The disrespectful, yung sumigaw siya ng this is a kangaroo court, was the after effect of the attempt of the congressman to stop Caceres from expressing his constitutional rights. So inamin naman niya yun, disrespect. But it has nothing to do with this document na pinapakita nila, mga kababayan. So alam naman ng tao kung bakit at paano na-cite in contempt yung dalawa.
the committee. And then, next slide. Today, now we see maybe there's a violation na rin with SEC that SEC should start looking into. Because merong hindi pagtutugma-tugma ang kanilang pagbibigay ng dokumento sa pag-apply ng kanilang amendment that will be detrimental now to their pinangahawakan nilang corporation sole sila. Kung mawalan sila ng certificate niyan, yung amendment to begin with, wala pala. Balik sila sa non-stock. So, mawawala yung argument nila. So, kailangan po ata talagang tingnan nila yan. And tingnan po rin ng SEC. Hindi lang po yung NTC na. No? And to, again, the next slide, babalik ko, na may violation din sa revised corporation code. So, in the event then that they find fraud in the amendment of AOI of the the Executive Kingdom of Jesus, no? Let's go back to the pie chart. Ano mangyayari? 'Di ba? Pareho pa rin yung numero. Kasi kung magiging non-stock sila, babalik sila sa Kingdom of Jesus na hindi corporation sole at mas malala kasi non-stock sila, 98.37% pa rin. Kasi essentially the 53.46 and the 44.91 ay magiging Kingdom of Jesus na non-stock. And obviously, 'di ba, monopolistic siya, which is violative of so many things. So, ngayon, with meron pa din po, next, na mukhang even the first hearing, we have established that meron ang pending administrative case filed against SMNI for red tagging and misusing of their platform.
Once again, mga kababayan, no, there's no such thing na red tagging because they themselves belongs to the red. That even Joma Season, no, galing sa bibig mismo ni Joma Season, that this group belongs to the CPP, NPA, NDF. The Alliance of Concerned Teachers, the Gabriela, Bayan, Anak Pawis, League of Filipino Students, this group or those groups were organized or created as part of the legal front and political system of the CPP, NPA, NDF. Hindi kasi kayo nag-aaral ng social problems natin o yung kalaban ng gobyerno natin. Naniniwala kayo sa sinasabi ng grupong ito. CPP, NPA, NDF ay iisa. The CPP is the brain or the one making propagandas. The NPA are the armed wing. Ito yung armed wing nila. Ito yung NPA, yung armadong pakikibaka. And the NDF was the National Democratic Front, yung legal front nila na ngayon ay nandyan na sa Kongreso. These are the party list system and other progressive group na sinasabi nila. Sila yung above ground and the NPA ay yun yung underground movement nila. Itong above ground o yung mga NDF, which is dito magpo-fall yung mga party list system, ito yung protector nila legally. Bakit sila ang kasama sa negotiation pag mayroong peace talk? Bakit sila yung mga nagre-recruit ng mga kabataan na eventually magiging NPA? And do you believe them that it's red tagging? Or in fact, it belongs to the red? Oh my God! Congresswoman!
Tama po. Mr. Chair, sa NTC. There's a pending.
Please reply to the inquiry of the Honorable.
Yes, yes, Your Honor, Mr. Chair. There's a pending case on admin case with the Suara Sugili NTC.
So essentially, that's why we are urging NTC to suspend muna habang nakikita natin na
Baka dito tayo magkakaproblema, mga kababayan. Pagka ipagpapatuloy nilang ipipilit, nakakampi nila itong mga grupo nila Raul Manuel at nila Franz Castro na Alliance of Concerned Teachers at yung dating congressman, yung Pulyamat, wherein her daughter was neutralized in one of the encounters ng mga NPA somewhere in Mindanao. Anak ng congresswoman is a member of the NPA. Imagine, kung ito ang kakampihan nyo ay medyo mag-iingat po tayo sapagkat ang taong bayan po ay gising na, ang taong bayan ay nagmamasid, ang ating mga kasundaluhan ay nagmamasid din. Mga retard, tulad ng manifesto na nilabas ng mga retard. You're all watching. At lahat ay nakikiramdam na baka itong grupo na ito, itong grupo nila Franz Castro, Raul Manuel, at itong kasama nilang mga party list, pag ito ang kumontrol sa Kongreso, ay medyo delikado po tayo. Kaya mag-iingat po tayo dyan sa Kongreso dahil sabi ko nga, ang taong bayan ay nagmamasid. Tuloy po natin.
paano niloloko-loko tayo dito. In summary lang, para pakita po natin sa taong bayan ang mga violations that we have seen so far. Not just their franchise on Section 4, Section 10, Section 11, mukhang ngayon pati Section 12. Pati ang highest law of the land, ang Constitution natin, dalawang articles. Article 12 and Article 16. Even the KBP Broadcast Code, there's Article 1, Article 4, Article 5, Article 9, Article 30, Article 33. Sarili nating house rules din. Kasi hindi nila sinasabi yung totoo. Meron tayong Section 11C and 11E sa house rules natin. At mukhang ngayon, kahit po sa Revised Corporation Code, mukhang ganon. So, we're simply really urging NTC na mukhang nagkakalokohan dito kasi may mga fraudulent aspects dito.
Since alam mo yung salitang nagkakalokohan, Madam Congressman, ay sana malaman nyo rin na naglolokohan lang tayo nitong mga miyembro ng party list na kasapi ng CNN o CBN, PNDF. Huwag na tayo maglokohan. Alam ng taong bayan, alam ng kabuuan ng men in uniform that these groups, those groups belongs to the red. No, they are not being red tag, they belongs to the red. CBP, NPA, and NDF. Huwag na tayo maglokohan dito. Yun po ang katotohanan.
Ano pa ba ang next natin makikita ang manloloko? Sabi nga ni Attorney Mark, walang forever. Dahil
Sinong manloloko? Ask Franz Castro and Raul Manuel.
po yun sa meron mga manloloko. At kung lolokohin ka, di ba, dapat hindi ka nagsistay sa isang toxic situation.
Okay, you said that. Well said, Miss Congressman. So sana, hindi ka niloloko nitong mga complainant mo na si Raul Manuel and Franz Castro.
So ito na mukhang may panloloko at naloloko tayo, kaya nga may house rules.
Oh.
At 'di ba? At mukhang
Naniniwala ka kay Raul Manuel na hindi siya nagre-recruit ng mga kabataan? Samantalang yung mga nag-surrender, mga former rebels ng mga kabataan na na-recruit, ay nagsalita na. At isa nga siya sa mga recruiter sa UP. At marami ng mga nag-surrender, no? Ang nagsasabi at nagsasalita na itinuturo ang mga tao na ito na nag-recruit sa kanila. Ngayon naniniwala kayo sa kanila. Sino ngayon ang manloloko? Sino ngayon ang nagpapaloko? Diba? Ibig sabihin lahat kayo dyan sa Kongreso ay kayang lokohin ng grupong ito. I don't know.
lumalabas pa konti-konti at nagda-dodge sila sa pagsasagot ng mga tanong pag hindi nila masagot, Mr. Chair. Ang nakakatakot ay sino pa ba ang lolokohin kasi nila?
Ang nakakatakot ay sino pa ang lolokohin ng mga grupo nga ng mga party list na ito. Naloko na kayo lahat.
Papayag po ba tayo na mandato natin to protect the people from misinformation, to protect people from people who are violating the laws?
So you're saying that yung sinasabi na itong party list na ito, na mga mismong sa bibig ni Joma Season, ang galing, na they're part of the CPP, NP, NDF, they're one, ay isang misinformation? Facts yan eh. Mismong si Joma Season na nagsabi.
Papayag po ba tayo? Sana yung NTC, tingnan nyo mabuti to, na habang tinitingnan at inuungkat lahat ng mga violations, not just the franchise, na makita nyo naman, paunti-unting may nakikita tayong mga violations. Sana po.
So, yun po mga kababayan, no? Patuloy tayo magpasid at makiramdam kung ano itong gustong mangyari ng mga ibang congressman na nakipagkampihan o nagkaroon ng agreement dito sa mga grupo na tinuturo nga nila Caselis at hindi po talaga lingid, no? Hindi na ito maitatago ng grupong ito na sila ay kasapi sapagkat sabi nga natin itong isang congresswoman na miyembro ng party list ay namatay ang kanyang anak sa isang encounter at pinagmalaki pa niya ito na ang anak niya ay isang NPA. And there are a lot of former rebels na nagsusurrender at nagsasabi na ang nag-recruit sa kanila, lalong-lalo na itong mga kabataan na galing sa mga universidad dito sa Kamaynilaan at sa iba pang mga probinsya, ay itong miyembro ng mga kabataan. Lalong-lalo na itong si Raul Manuel. Pero bakit hindi sila naniniwala? Ayaw nilang maniwala doon sa mga mismong tao o doon sa mga mismong kabataan na nabiktima ng pag-recruit nila. Bakit pilit nilang pinaniniwalaan itong grupo na ito, itong mga party list na ito, at hindi nila paniwalaan yung mga mismong biktima? May mga magulang nang nanawagan na tulungan sila na bawiin ang kanilang mga anak na nasa poder ng mga grupong ito. Pero wala man lang tumulong para mabawi ang kanilang mga anak. Pagkus pinaniwalaan pa ninyo ang mga grupo na ito. Napakahirap kung ganito ang mangyayari sa atin. Pag maghahari ang mga leader komunista na ito, kawawa po ang ating bayan. Mga aktivista po, yan po ang source ng NPA. Maniwala po kayo sa hindi. Lahat ng mga kabataan na namamatay sa engkwentro sa mga kabundukan at kanayunan, pag sila ay isang dating estudyante, malamang o sigurado galing sa universidad at na-recruit ng mga kabataan, party list o kabataan o sino mang grupo nila dyan, makabayan or ACT party list. Sigurado na-recruit ito bago sumampa sa grupo ng NPA. Pagkat isa po, no, sa batayan para ikaw ay makasapi sa NPA, ikaw ay dadaan mo na bilang isang aktivista o sasali sa mga progresibong grupo. Look at PUP. Pag ikaw ay nakapasok sa LFS, then the chance na mapunta ka sa NPA is malaki. Ganun po ang istorya, ganun po ang pamamaraan nila para makarecruit ng NPA. Aktivista ka muna hanggang sa maging NPA ka. But you have the option. Katulad ng yung sinabi ng isang babaeng former rebel. Siya ay napunta sa NPA, si Raul Manuel ay napunta sa Congress because ayaw niya mag-NPA. Nung nag-surrender sila, isiniwalat niya lahat. No? Kung sino-sino, kung ano-ano ang papel ng mga grupo na ito. Sana mga kababayan, maging mapagmatyak tayo, bantayan natin kung ano ang mga kinikilos sa mga grupong ito. Makapagising natin isang umaga, ay kontrolado na ng komunista ang ating bansa. Lamang po at maraming salamat. Magandang gabi.